Now, don't get me wrong, but I think the problem with meat ravioli is that the name is somehow misleading. I mean, where is the meat? I calculated it out. I think in most cases the percentage of pasta is around 60 to 70%, and the rest is made up from filling, like some meat and a few other ingredients. So I wanted to create a meat ravioli that lives up to the name meat, but I also wanted to make it so good that it could be served in a Michelin star restaurant. I know it's a big call, but you need to know I used to own, work in, and manage some of Europe's most highly awarded restaurant kitchens, so making the first authentic meat ravioli was a challenge I felt I could take on. But as it turned out, it wasn't the only challenge. There were actually quite a few of them until I came up with the perfect version. But I also wanted to make it really simple, because so that you can recreate that dish at home. So I started off with thinking and contemplating, and I had a lot of ideas, some good and some not so. Eventually I settled for one of them, and I started off with some very tender meat, like an eye fillet. But I needed to clean it up and remove the sinewy and the fat, so it would be tender all around. I sliced it thinly, and I placed it between 2 sheets of baking paper and battered and rolled it thinly and even, so it would not be too thick and really pleasant to eat. And this, of course, did tenderize my eye fillet even further, so that was another win. Next, I cut out some circles with the help of a cake cutter for the top of my meat ravioli, and then I cut out a slightly smaller one for the bottom. I repeated this a few times and ended up with wrappers and trimmings. The wrappers are placed in the fridge, but there were a lot of trimmings and I did not want to throw them out, so I chopped them all up and I turned them into a meat dip, because my thinking was steak tartare, and I could use that as the filling. But raw minced meat oxidizes very quickly, so I had to add straight away a little bit of olive oil to stop that. Plus I added a little bit of tomato sauce to add some sweetness and some acidity. Then, like with any other beef tartare, I chopped up some shallots, gherkins, capers, anchovies, parsley, and continued with a little bit of garlic and chili. Then I added some mustard and sprinkled over some smoked paprika, salt flakes, and pepper. But I knew the original beef tartare contains egg yolk. I thought that could be a bit too rich, a bit too messy. So I left it out, and I came up with a much better idea, which I will show you a little bit later. Then I mixed it all up, and voila, here is my beef tartare. I don't know if you do know, but beef tartare historically comes from the Tartare people in today's Russia, and story goes that the recipe of beef tartare came with Russian sailors to the port of Hamburg, where a German chef thought that can't be right to serve raw meat to people. So he cooked it all up, and I served it to American sailors, and they absolutely loved it, and they brought it back to America and named it after the town of Hamburg where they first ate it. I mean, the rest, of course, is all history. So next I shaped my meat dip into half balls and placed it onto the slightly smaller meat wrapper. Then I topped it with the slightly larger meat wrapper and shaped the edges so it all looked perfect. Then I brushed it with a little bit of olive oil, and it was ready to go. I topped it with my special egg yolk, but I'm not telling you just yet why it has turned out all so waxy. And there was my first true meat ravioli. I was really proud of it. I mean, beef tartare wrapped in beef carpaccio. How much better can it get? But that got me thinking that this true meat ravioli might actually be a bit too meaty for some people, possibly even a little bit one-dimensional and rustic, maybe not an absolute masterpiece. So that got me thinking again, and since I already started to celebrate my ravioli and had a glass of wine or two, I felt that my head actually started to spin a little. But in all that spinning, I got a real light bulb moment, so I got 2 amazing ideas, and the first one was that if I want to make it more elegant and lighter, I needed to lighten up my filling. And how I did that was by taking some tomatoes that were quite sweet and quite sour, and I cut them up and I placed them into a pot, covered it with a lid, and started to boil it. And then I cooked it for 1 to 2 minutes, and I checked it, and it sort of did not convince me completely that this could do the job of lightening up my filling. So added some cream and boiled it for another minute. But I also knew that this sauce will not keep my ravioli's shape, so I went off and soaked some gelatin to set my creamy tomato sauce. Then I blended the sauce all up and I passed it through a strainer, and then I added the right amount of gelatin so it becomes really nice, soft and creamy. Now to work that out, I had to measure my tomato sauce. Then I added the gelatin, I stirred it in, I melted it, and yes, I will put you the recipe in the link below so you can try it too. And then I seasoned it with salt and I tasted it, and let me tell you, it tasted absolutely delicious. To give it the perfect shape, I filled it into molds like that, and then I placed it into the fridge for 3 to 4 hours, basically till the gelatin has set. Then I took it out, scooped out the syrup from the center, filled that cavity with my beef dip or beef tartare. I thought the creamy tomato layer would be the perfect complementing buffer between the meat wrapper and the beef tartare. I thought that could work, but I felt there was still something missing, and that's where I got my second idea, which I think will be an absolute game changer. A sauce was my first idea, but I could see that would not lighten things up the way I wanted it to. It would keep things too complex and not complement the other textures in the dish. It's a bit like a plane that would never take off, and in order to make my dish take off and be an absolutely stunning restaurant entree, I needed something lighter than a sauce or a vinaigrette. Something playful, something uplifting, and I imagined an old classic beef bouillon, but a really light one, because I need to tell you a little story. I like to drink tea, and I like it when I only brew it for 2 minutes, because then it's not too tannic and it's quite uplifting. So I thought I will cook my bouillon only for 2 hours, just enough that the elastin does not break down in the meat and keeps the collagen all bound up, and through that my broth or beef bouillon will be actually quite light and quite playful. And to make such a soup I got an oxtail, because that makes the best beef bouillon, but I wanted it to be true Michelin star quality. So I need to tell you a little secret. For that you add some beef cheeks and some beef tongue too. The tongue will be the real secret, because it will make your broth really sweet and complex and enrich all the other flavors. But when I took it out, I found there's a lot of sticky proteins on the meat, which could turn into a lot of gray foam later on and make my bouillon really cloudy. So I washed the meat to remove any of these loose protein juices. I placed them into a pot and I added some leek, some carrots, some onions, together with some parsley and some black peppercorns. I brought that all to the boil and skimmed off the great protein foam several times, and then I simmered it for just under 2 hours. And let me tell you, I ended up with a clear and amazing tasting broth. But I also need to tell you that I did something else to my broth, just like I did with my egg yolk, which I will tell you in a second, because in the real world, this beef bouillon would never ever have that color. It would look like that, what you see here. So in order to give my bouillon color, I took some onions and some tin foil and I dry roasted or burned my onions to a stage where the sugar actually is gone black. And then I added that plus a little bit of brown onion skin to my bouillon at the beginning, and together they gave my bouillon this beautiful color, exactly what I wanted. I really felt I'm getting there. And then I strained my bouillon through a filter and I seasoned it with salt, and God, did that taste delicious. Exactly what I was looking for. But I felt I could even make that a little bit better. So I remembered I had some truffles left over from this morning's breakfast and a few more from yesterday's breakfast. So I added them to my broth. I'm just joking, by the way. I mean, wouldn't it be nice to be so rich to have truffles for breakfast every day? So we're almost there to taste and compare and find out which meat ravioli is the better one. I will dress both the same way for my tasting, top them both with my special egg yolk, and yes, that special egg yolk secret will be revealed now. I didn't want to do a raw egg yolk on the top because I don't think that would work. It would also all over my ravioli and just really create a mess. Salted egg yolk, yeah, I didn't think that's an option either, because it would be too salty and it would be a bit too chewy. So I had to think of another way, which was freezing the egg yolk completely. And when defrosting, the egg white goes back to its normal stage. However, the egg yolk becomes all waxy and creamy, like an egg yolk mochi. It's like a complete new texture dimension. So that also goes onto my ravioli now. Here we have our 2-meat ravioli and the same garnish for both. So let's plate them up and find out who is the winner. So here we go. Now we're gonna taste our meat ravioli with my wife here. She is the judge today, and yeah, let's go. So the first one I want you to taste is probably this one. So that was my first idea.
Okay.
My first idea.
This looks interesting because it looks like raw meat with egg on top, and I love steak tartare, so that's a plus for me already.
Right.
So what do I do? Just break into it? Yeah. Ravioli. Okay, meat ravioli. So we've got the meat as the ravioli. All right, a little bit of egg, put on top. I have to say it's similar to a steak tartare.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Walter makes the most amazing steak tartares. The meat wrapped around it gives the impression of it being a ravioli. Let me just try it a bit more because it's very delicate in its flavour. It doesn't hit you, it's just nice.
Okay, so what do you think?
It's a little bit bland.
A bit bland, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice texture. It's raw meat, minced on the inside, bit on the outside. And it's honestly a bit more like a steak tartare, honey. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Than ravioli.
So let's try the next one then.
Alrighty. I really hope this is the better one because it's got the better plate. Right. Oh, croutons. Ooh, now this has got something else on the inside. It's got, what's that orange lining?
I need to find out.
Okay, there's an orange lining, so it's not just raw meat. There's something in between the raw meat on the outside and the raw meat on the inside. Wow. What is that? I love that. This thing here, that orange stuff. It's like a mousse.
Yeah, tomato mousse.
What's
Tomato mousse.
That changes it all together.
Yeah, then I thought it could
Gives it a bit of a kick.
throw a few croutons.
It actually complements the raw beef on the inside and the outside and gives it a kick. It's not like steak tartare anymore. I like that. Let's try again. Not so much like steak tartare, it's something completely different with the mousse.
Yeah.
That just transforms the meal.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a thumbs up for me. That's a thumbs down.
Okay.
I mean, that's a thumbs up for steak tartare. That's a that's a thumbs up for your meat ravioli,
Okay.
dear.
Think of the egg yolk.
There you go. The egg yolk. Oh, sorry, more flavors. This is actually getting quite exciting. Egg yolk and truffle. Very cute. It's just you can tell I'm not a food taster professionally because I use all the wrong words. But it's kind of like, let me just find the right word for this. If I were to eat an egg yolk that's large and bold, that's like hard and crunchy, this one's just kind of soft.
Soft.
Yes, and a little bit of taste to it, not too much.
Okay.
Yeah, complements everything else. Did we have that in that one?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, sorry. That one's my favourite. That one's my favourite.
Yeah.
Did I win?
Yeah.
I get it right?
Yeah.
Good. Well, it's pretty obvious because the plates, you have to serve them in the same plate.
Huh?
Because that's a bit of a giveaway. But I'm an honest person, so I'm always going to tell you the absolute honest truth when it comes to Walter and his cooking. He hears about it daily.
Okay, so that will make a great entree or even a light main. And it will go really nice with my fig tart. So check out the video on that.
And the fig tart I actually tasted in last week's video, which was really good. Yeah, that was really bland.
Yeah.
That's not ravioli at all. It's not.
Well,
Sorry, did someone else do that?
Huh?
Is that your... Did you make that up?
well, yeah, need to try and
This
taste
is definitely
Yeah.
more like ravioli. That would not sell as ravioli. They'd be like, that's steak tartare.
Okay.
They'd be sent back. Yeah. So I think this one was a fail. Bella! What is that? Is that good? Would you eat it? Yeah, she'll eat it. It's good dog food, honey. Sorry.